Hello, hello, hello. Are you spectacular and delicious and wonderful and bubbly people out there? My name is Devanan, and I am the host of the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast. I'm coming to you today to tell you that I'm going to be taking a slight kind of sort of break over the next couple of weeks just to rearrange some things on the back end. We're actually changing hosting platforms for our podcast. And so we need a little bit of time to migrate everything over and make sure everything is flowing smoothly. Plus, not a bad time to take a bit of a break after all that has gone on this year. I will damn sure still be recording my episodes behind the scenes. I just won't start releasing any totally brand new ones for a couple of weeks, probably sometime into June. What we're going to do, though, is do some throwbacks and some of the ones that are standing out to me at this current point in time to bring a bit of a revival back to some of the previous shows. I'm so fortunate and so thankful and so grateful, so hella grateful that I've been doing this long enough to have over 100 episodes, to have enough to go and do a throwback to. And so we're going to start with an episode that was titled The Music of Meditation and Unity of Consciousness with Sandy Vo, who is the host of the Prosperous Podcast and the founder of the Prosperous School of Self-Realization. Why I went with this one, Tina Turner, just passed away. I believe it was yesterday. Today's May 25th as I'm recording this. Let's talk about Tina Turner for a moment. Okay. All right. Now, when you look up the definition of a bad bitch, okay, you just go ahead and rip the page out, rip the definition out, and just stick her picture there because the woman had it going on in this particular plane of existence. And the ending of her story, in my opinion, is a story that ended in power on this physical plane of existence. Tina Turner was all about, prayer and meditation. She was a dedicated Buddhist. And and when I was reviewing which episode to pick, Sandy's episode stood out because this episode is all about mindfulness, consciousness, making good things come from terrible situations. Tina Turner literally gave this whole world a master class on how to overcome the oppression of man. Tina Turner gave this whole world a fucking master class on how to overcome the oppression of the XY chromosome. Okay. The woman was hit, beat, mentally abused, stripped of her identity, pride, dignity, money. Ike Turner beat the fuck out of her for 16 years. You know how they do. They start off nice, sweet, and then they turn and change. And then empathetic people, we convince ourselves to stay. The woman tried to kill herself and everything. Oh, it was a mess. If you haven't seen that movie with Angela Bassett, What's Love Got to Do with It? Go ahead and get your copy now. Okay, go ahead and get your copy now because that's a damn good movie and a great movie to look at if you've had to go through a breakup. The end, you were not the asshole in the situation in the breakup. If you were the asshole, you ain't gonna like the movie because, it's calling you out on your shit. And assholes don't like to be called out on anything. But Tina Turner got away from Ike. She ran the fuck away from him. And bitch, when I say ran, she ran in those 6-inch heels down the street, honey. She had 36 cents to her name when she left him at a mobile card. When she re-emerged into her own, she was in her 40s. And then she went on to do great things. I think she won something like 8 fucking Grammys. Okay. And then she was re-inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame again, this time by herself without being a part of the Ike and Turner Review. Tina Turner's story, I just feel like her spirit is here with me, undergirding me and lifting me up. I'm in my 40s physically, though I feel 17. And, I've had to start everything over, from this experience that I went through, which I am not whining about. God has strengthened and enhanced my life tremendously and beyond through this painful experience. Tina Turner showed me how you can run away from a man and get untangled from him and not have your mind intact, your finances intact. I just had to file bankruptcy the other day because of the way I mentally checked out from my businesses. I wasn't here to run them and make the money. I was for shit up until like maybe now, and so shit got out of hand. Some things in this world that you are part of will not work unless you are there. If you are not there, it just simply will not happen. And I am needed for my businesses to thrive. And that's all there is to it. Not whining about it. God has given me a full reset. Tina Turner started from 36 cents in a mobile car, bitch, and went on to do all that she did. God damn it, I can do it too. She was in her 40s, as am I. Okay, is God not speaking to me right now? Yes, he is. I feel a huge wave of encouragement and strength from the life this woman lived and the way her story ended, which is beautiful as fuck because she kept a positive attitude. She disentangled herself from that spirit of oppression that was reaching out through Ike Turner. She tried to darken and kill the light that is in Tina Turner. Okay. Tina Turner showed us that you don't need a man to thrive and survive. When she was coming up in music, it was all about, like men. She had been with Ike Turner that whole time, but baby, she broke free and said, God damn it, I'm going to do this shit any fucking way. And she did it until she got the attention, I believe it was, of Mick Jagger, and then all went on from there. Bitches, we y'all don't need no motherfucking man. If you want one, great, but you don't have to have one. And if you approach a man with that I gotta have you mentality, most of them just gonna use you and abuse you and take advantage of you and view you as weak. When I met my ex, I had that mentality. I just was so dead set on trying this experience of having a man child that I talked myself out of all the bullshit and the abuse that he was doing. This time around, we slowing the fuck down. If it ever happens again, or if it don't, I am Gucci. And because of that, that shit'll probably happen quicker, and that's just the way it seems to work. But I'm actually not in a rush. And I've had the experience. It was what it was. We're taking the lessons and the strength and moving forward. And that is what Tina Turner did. And she went on to have her greatest successes after she got out of that oppression. Yes, all the good she tried to do for that man who would not receive it came back to her. And we all know how Ike Turner's fucking story ended. I think after he got out of prison or whatever the hell the case may be. But, he wasn't looking real cute on that last interview I saw with him. You do evil, evil's going to catch up to you one day. Anyway, so our first throwback episode is Sandy Vo. Listen as she and I speak to you about being prosperous, overcoming suicidal thinking, coming up from living on food stamps, talking about unity consciousness, and how energy blockages can like manifest into disease. You people running around here dishing out negativity, you're going to make yourself physically sick one day when that evil comes back to you. Empathetic people taking on negativity from people, get out of it because if you end up with cancer or something, God forbid, but for instance, I've seen things like this in my massage therapy practice, you end up with some sort of ailment or malady in your body over some stress, some person put into you, they will not be there. If you think the same person who fucked you over that much is going to be there to help you, to really nurse you back to health and be faithful to you while you're laying in a bed and can't get out, honey, stop kidding yourself. They've been all about themselves. It won't change if you get sick after dealing with them. I talked to people who done had multiple strokes just striving with a husband and shit like that. Girl, bye, get the fuck out and go get you a vibrator and just live your best, happy, stress-free life. I give you Sandy Vo. You're listening to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast, where we discuss whatever the fuck we want to. And yes, we can put sex and drugs and Jesus all in the same bed and still be all right at the end of the day. My name is Devanin, and I'll be interviewing guests from every corner of this world as we dig into topics that are too risque for the morning show, as we strive to help you understand what's really going on in your life. There is nothing off the table, and we've got a lot to talk about, so let's dive right into this episode. Sandy Vo is the host of the Prosperous Podcast, and she's the founder of the Prosperous School of Self-Realization. Sandy's a meditation teacher, and she's a student of yoga science herself. And she both studied and taught at the American Meditation Institute. This episode is really cool and fantastic because for the first time I get to talk to somebody who used to be on food stamps like me. And she's really turned her life around. And she's very mind focused, meditation focused, consciousness focused. And the beautiful thing is that her life's mission is to lead and guide other people to their own level of centeredness and balance. And I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope you do too. Miss Sandy Vo, thank you so much for coming on my show. And yeah, I wanted to start with a corny rhyme because I can do shit like that and get away with it.
Well, this is kind of funny. When I was in college, I used to have this name called The Vo Show.
Ooh.
And, people would tell me, you should have a reality TV show and just call it The Vo Show. So there you go.
I will watch that shit, girl.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm super duper excited to have you on today because we're going to be doing a lot of spiritual talk, but also very grounded. And right off the bat, I want you to highlight and kind of break down the resource that is your website, because on there you tell us about your retreat, your Prosperous School, you have Prosperous Podcast. It's like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of, I'm a nerd out for just a second here. I'm a nerd out, but there's Star Wars and there's Spaceballs, which if you're a 90s kid, then they had Spaceballs, the movie, Spaceballs, like, I don't know, the Yoda doll at that like one point in it. Never mind. Go ahead.
I feel you. So yeah, my website is sandyvo.com. That's SANDY, V as in Victory, O.com. And you can find everything that we talk about today on the podcast. You can find it in that website. There's a link to a free meditation that you can download. And what it does is it rewires your unconscious mind while you're sleeping with the vibrational therapy music that my fiance created. It's really wonderful. And there is also links to my podcast, which you can listen right on the website as well. It's very meditative. It's a great way to recalibrate your energy. They're short, 15 to 25 minute bite pieces that are very potent, and it helps you to just tune into yourself when you feel like there has been way too much going on in the outside world. And if you would like to take things to the next level, I do a lot of things free at Servants, and I also help people at the next level with Prosperous, the School of Self-Realization. So if you're ready to go there, that's a 90-day program that you can join. It's holistic. It teaches you everything from your environment and recalibrating your environment, setting that up in a way that attunes to your unique energy type. And it also teaches you the 5-element breath work and meditation as well. So that's the Prosperous School. And if you want to go to a retreat in person, if you're down for that, we have in-person retreat opportunities as well. So you would sign up on the wait list for that. So lots of things you'll find on there.
Okay, so that's badass and bitchin'. So with the Prosperous School, the 90-day program, is there any one-on-one interaction with you with that, or is that mainly the retreat?
Yeah, there's one-on-one interaction with that. So what I've done with Prosperous, because I know that what happens is when you want to make a change in your life, you might be so motivated. You might go and sign up for that gym membership, but just because you signed up for it doesn't mean that you're actually going to go. But when you know that you're going to meet up with a mentor or a guide or somebody who's going to train you, support you along the way, there is more chances that are likely that you're going to actually show up and do the work. So that was one thing that was a non-negotiable for me. I wanted it to have live elements, and I wanted people to feel like there was somebody that was invested in them and their journey, and not just plunge them into a bunch of video lessons and not kind of guide them along the way. So we do see each other twice a month, and it's in a small group. So there's small groups of 4 that you will be in. And that's where you get your questions answered. You get some live mentorship, and you get to ask about some of the things that you've integrated, some of the practices. So, if you've had a really if you have a very stressful job and you also have kids at the same time and you don't know how to manage it all, or you're going through a relationship breakup and you have specific questions around how do I apply this breathing technique in my life right now so I can have more energy, or how do I balance out my masculine and feminine side so I can feel more centered and grounded, we have tools to kind of help you and guide you along the way.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And now what we're going to do is explain to people where you're coming from and how you got to a point where you're in a position to be giving somebody else advice on things like that. And we've heard it, all before, folks, when somebody's gone through something, then they're better equipped to help you along your journey as well. I was reading up on you in my research, and you wrote that you, at one point in your life, you looked up to the sky and you said, God, why me? Why me? And so I want to know what was happening in your life, because I know that pain and whatever went through it. At some point, you also said that you heard from the divine saying that, you had a greater purpose. And so your purpose was birthed out of this darkness. And I want to know what that darkness was.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think for me and for a lot of people, the purpose that you have in your life isn't something that you just wake up one day and you know what your purpose is.
Hmm.
There's a whole journey that you kind of go through to get there. And for me, that journey started from a place of deep, deep depression. I at when I was 15 years old, my parents got divorced, and this completely rocked my world because my mom and my dad and the family that I grew up in was just full of so much love. And I had a very close relationship with my father. He would be like the guy that would, we would talk about life, wisdom, universe, God. That would be my dad. And so, one day, because my mom was a gambaholic, my parents are entrepreneurs. They would put so much time and effort and energy into building businesses, make all this money, and then my mom would gamble. And it got their relationship into a really bad place. And eventually my dad cheated, and he just one day got up and he left, literally just disappeared, left. And it rocked my world because I felt like we had everything, even though my parents were immigrants from Vietnam, even though I was first generation, I'm first generation. I could go back and I could say, compared to other people, there was a lot of things that I didn't have, but I never viewed my life as that way. I always felt very grateful and joyful and very appreciative of what my parents did for me. And I never felt like I lacked anything. Anything that we wanted, my parents were able to offer to us. And so when you have this foundation from this family that just feels so strong and you feel so supported in your life, to suddenly, boom, everything just breaks apart, there's a sense of responsibility and weight that you start to carry on your shoulder, on your chest, that you feel like somehow it was your fault or somehow it was something that you did. And I think a lot of kids, nowadays, they go through this, and a lot of adults, especially adults that I work with as well, eventually get to this place where they work so hard, they make all this money, and they don't realize that the reason why they're working so hard to a point of burnout and dis-ease and illness is because they're trying to run away from these core wounds and trauma that developed when they were younger, like parents getting divorced. So that was one of the most difficult times in my life that led to a complete depression. Where things really started to get worse for me was when I lost my cousin to leukemia. And then I remember just feeling the entire weight of the world on my shoulders. That was when I looked up at the sky and I asked God, why me? Why am I going through all of this right now? Are you even real? If you are real, then why am I suffering so much? And it was really that question. It was almost like I had that question led me to experience God more directly, and it was through that whole journey, through pain, through thinking that suicide would really be my last option, my only way of escape, did I get catapulted back into reality, into life. And I realized that there was a greater purpose for me than just death alone. It was death that taught me that life is so much greater and there was so much more to offer. And it was through that journey that I realized that, the pain that I felt was because my mind did a really great job of suppressing a lot of things that happened when I was younger that I didn't even know happened.
Well, I'm so sorry all of that happened to you, Sandy, but I'm so glad that you're here today and to share and to be transparent because that's what helps you maintain the victory and helps other people get the victory. And so yeah, my dad cheated too. He cheated twice. Once when my mom was pregnant with me, as my grandmother was telling me, she spilled all the family tea. She wasn't trying to, she didn't keep secrets. She told me all of the bullshit. And the second when I was in the eighth grade, and it was a hot mess. And then he ended up in like a mental hospital for 3 days and all of that. And then, it was chaotic, and that's when my grades and started to go down in the fall and everything like that. And I thought maybe I just, was less intelligent than I had been previously. And it took until many years later until I associated the trauma of the adultery to affecting me in school. Because like you said, the reliance, the structure, the stability, was gone. And so, and then at one point you had said that, excuse me, that you were on food stamps. I experienced this when I was homeless. And then when I was trying to rebuild my life back up, that's when I was on them as well. And I want you to talk a little bit about that because I want to help people. Some people feel like, oh my God, it's government assistance. I'll never do that. That's just those ratchet ass welfare queens, and everything like that. But I don't view it that way. I feel like, you pay taxes, food stamps are like with a drawing on your investment. If it's at a time of your life where you need to go through it. And, there's a lot of pride mixed in when people are like, they don't want to take help, and that's how we get into even more trouble, no matter what form it comes in. If you ain't got no food, then bitch, go get the stamps, if you can. It's better than starving or doing what I used to do and go sell drugs or prostitute yourself or whatever the case may be. And so I don't feel like it's any shame to it, but I feel like it centers around ego, like in a bad way of dealing with ego and everything like that. So what's your take on it?
Yeah, for me, that was when I was living with my mom after my father had left, and beforehand, I know my father was the kind of guy that just always worked hard to provide everything, and he never wanted us to be on food stamps. But when my dad left and we were left spending for ourselves, my mom was a single mother of three, and she wasn't able to provide for all of us in that way. And that's when we got into a place where we needed to have food stamps. And that's what really helped us get by during those times. I mean, we were living in a small, tiny little 500, 600 square foot apartment, two small bathrooms and two small bedrooms, and my mom and my brother shared one room and my sister and I shared the other room. And if I wanted any break or freedom, or if I just wanted to cry, the only place that I had to do that was in the shower when I didn't, when I could mask things and I could just be to myself. And so it was really rough during those times, and we needed to accept that type of support because even with me working and my mom working, it wasn't enough to provide for my younger siblings. To go from a place of owning your own business to now having nothing and having to start over in a completely different states than you've ever been. And so, I think when it comes down to food stamps and governmental support, it's really situational and it depends on where you're at in your life, and if that support is open for you and it's something that you need, then I think part of the work is actually accepting the help but not relying on it. So when we finally got to a place where I was working a lot more and my mom was better and, working more, she was a little bit more established, then we were able to get off of the food stamps. But I think it's really just about learning how to receive help when you have it, understanding that it's temporary and it's only a season in your life. And that if you can do it right, that season will support you in moving forward. So when I look back, I'm grateful. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I was on food stamps. Like, I didn't want to tell anybody. That's the kind of situation that we were in. However, looking back, I'm so grateful and I'm appreciative that we were able to have that kind of support when we needed it. And it motivated me, to transform those times into something that was greater. And that's why, you can go from food stamps to creating a full life of freedom. So when I look at my life today, my mom is with a man that she absolutely loves. I have a great relationship with my father. My brother works for a really great company. My sister is an established travel nurse, and I have an established business and career doing what I love and fulfilling my purpose. So I wouldn't have ever known that this was how things played out 10, 12 years later. But because I trusted the process and I found ways to be grateful, I feel like that's what's led me to be here.
Thank you for sharing that. I echo everything you said. It reminds me of a song on one of Dave Coz's album, and Dave Coz is a famous saxophone player in the league, like Kenny G and everything like that. And I know you got a voice on you, girl, because I heard you singing all one of your shows, and we will be doing that song later on in the podcast too, Waiting on Me. And but this right here, what you just was talking about, was reminding me about that song. And she says in there, as long as you are breathing, you can start all over again. If your heart's beating, you can start all over again. So she goes, as long as you are breathing, you can start all over again. If your heart's beating, you can start all over. And it's all very suave with saxophones and shit and everything
Oh,
like that.
wow.
But it's super encouraging, and that's the point. The thing that you said is just temporary. And you see, like when I got HIV and everything, I didn't understand that it was just temporary. I figured that
Mm.
was the end, and then that would be the end of me, and that was the only option that I had. See, it's all about perspective and point of view. And so what we believe is our reality. And so had I looked at it as just temporary, I probably wouldn't have like quit my job and just thought I was going to die in a few months. And so perspective is everything. So take us into what, unity consciousness is. That seems to be a big theme of your work. So can you please break that down for us, Miss Sandy?
Yeah, of course. And I loved the song that you just introduced me to. You're gonna have to send me the link afterwards. And that was a really beautiful job singing yourself. So
Okay. Thank you, girl. All of that, I'm going to send you to, and people, all of that will be in the show notes on the music we sing today and everything like that. And I'll be sure to get information for your fiance for his music. Cause it sounded like you were talking about binaural beats a little bit to me
yeah, but yeah,
early,
simple.
earlier when you were saying the music helps you when you sleep. And I think that that's a super cool thing. And so I'm going to make a note to get some information so I can include his information in the show notes too.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, so unity consciousness. So oftentimes as human beings, we like to compartmentalize things. That's what our brain and our ego does. When I am talking to you, I am a meditation teacher. When I am with my mom, I am a daughter. When I'm at work, I'm at work. I have a completely different personality. Or when I am working in a school environment, my energy shifts, my personality shifts. We compartmentalize things. This is me in this role when I'm doing this. This is me in this role when I'm doing this. So that's what our brain does in order to protect us, in order to help us navigate in a working society. And the brain works in the same way when it tries to think about its past and traumas that we've experienced in our lives. The brain, what it does really well is it protects us and it blocks us from remembering certain things that are really harmful to where we're at in the time. So remember I talked about part of my journey was when I started to look at some of the things that I've been running away from. I started to recall things that I didn't even know happened to me when I was younger. And one of those things was I got sexually molested by my step grandfather when I was 8 years old. And I finally recalled it at a time when I was ready for it. But my brain had done a really great job of suppressing that to such a degree that I didn't even remember that it happened to me. I just remember that when I'm around him, he makes me really uncomfortable. Right. And so what unity consciousness is instead of looking at our minds just from a past point of view or an unconscious point of view or from a future point of view, it takes all of the division and the separation that's going on in your mind and then brings it into unity. It takes you into unity, and that's one level of it. The other level that is unity consciousness is about uniting with your inner wisdom and uniting with the divine. So if we look into Jesus says, I and my Father are one. When Jesus said, I and my Father are one, he's talking about unity consciousness. He's talking about, I am one with the divine, I am one with the Father. It's the same thing with us. When we learn how to unite our thoughts, the things that we think about, the words that we speak, the actions that we take, when we learn to unite that with our inner wisdom and with the divine will and not just the human will, then now we are operating from a place of unity consciousness. We are not divided. We do not feel that we are separate from our higher self, right? Which is also the self that is in tuned to God. And so that's what unity consciousness is. And when we can begin to harmonize all areas of our thoughts, our mind, our life into the present moment right now, we are experiencing unity consciousness, which is why it feels so good when you are so present with something. For example, when you're interviewing someone on a podcast and you're really tuned into the conversation, you're riding the wave and you're having a great time. You forget that all this time is passing by. When you're painting, when you're singing, when you're just getting lost in the music, you're so present in that moment that you forget about the past and all the things that happened to you. You forget about the future and all the things that you have to do. And your entire being is immersed in this moment right now. That is unity consciousness. Does that make sense?
That makes crystal clear sense, my dear. And I've looked at other people and I've strive to, to understand, it's like how you're saying, like the person might be one person at work, one person at home, one person in the city, one person in the field, you know, I think there's a difference in between being able to mentally shift gears to accomplish a task as opposed to assuming what almost looks like a completely different persona to do it. And a lot of times I feel like, or I totally feel like that's a lot of why people are unhappy in life is because they're not really being their truest form or truest self 100% of the time, or in living up to what you would call unity consciousness. And I think some people feel like that's just what they have to do. And so in order to get by or in order to live or in order to make it, which is a big reason why they never made it in corporate America, and why, I have a podcast, and a kinky lingerie store, that I run online down under apparel, was because I wasn't willing to do what I felt like I saw other people doing. Or then they would say, well, you just have to like play this role while you're here at work today, and go home and then you can really be yourself. And I was like, no, fuck you, motherfucker. I want to be myself right now. And so I'm going to unbutton my shirt and I'll let these tits out and everything like that. And they just didn't want me to do that in the office for some reason. And so, I've been fired before and stuff like that. And I'm not suggesting people go around flashing their tits and none of that. But it's about, I very much knew who I was and the sort of person that I was, and I wasn't willing to change it no matter where I was. And I feel like society expects us to change how we are in certain places to fit certain roles. And so I'm more for unity consciousness personally.
Yeah, and you bring up such a great point in sharing that. And this is what I call the fragmented self. It's when we feel like we need to break ourselves up into little bits and pieces and personalities in order to fit into a certain box or a certain category. I think that this is one of the reasons why mental illness and mental health is on such a scale of depletion in our society, because we are we live in a society that promotes this, that promotes the fragmented self, where if you walk into this space, this is how you have to be. This is the code of conduct. And while, yes, I see that being very beneficial to a corporate structure, the reason why a lot of corporate structures are crumbling right now is because that type of way of being is not sustainable. When you can't fully be yourself, when you can't fully express yourself, in any type of environment and you have to conform to something that isn't you, that is not sustainable. And eventually you feel sick, you feel mentally sick because you're not allowing that energy to be expressed. And the environment and the health of the company is also sick as well. There is dis-ease in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So we can look at it at an energetic level. We are all energetic beings, right? We learned this in physics class when we learned from Albert Einstein that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So if everything in this world is energy, if I am energy, if this phone is energy, if this book is energy, then what that means is that energy is constantly in motion. We learned this in school, right? Energy is constantly in motion. We learned this about the laws of kinetics. Everything's constantly moving. And so if we are suppressing our energy and we are not allowing it, we're not giving it a place to go, we're not expressing it, and we are suppressing it, we are doubting ourselves, we are dimming our light, we change who we are when we're around certain people, this eventually creates stagnant energy. And when you have enough stagnant energy inside of yourself, it starts to manifest or materialize. So what happens to your body? You start getting certain tangles or blocks in the body. So you might have some digestive issues. You might have some thyroid issues because you're not speaking your truth and you have a lot of energy that's stored in your throat. You might end up having a lot of weight being on your body because you are literally carrying so much weight because you're not expressing that energy. So this is true even at an energetic level. When you live a fragmented version of yourself, it will manifest into some type of dis-ease. And that's why so many people are unhappy. But when you learn to just be bold, be brave, trailblaze a new path for yourself like you did, then you're going to feel a lot more expressed. And even if the world around you does not like you for that, does not respect you for that, then it doesn't matter because your health, your sanity, who you are, you're still living in integrity to that. So for me, I might teach meditation, I might talk a little more properly, I might stay away from cursing and all that stuff, but I fully respect and honor people for whoever it is that they are, and people feel comfortable with me even if they're the complete opposite of what I do or how I am, because it's so important. We are all unique expressions of the divine. We are all unique expressions of the divine. So how you express the divine is one way, and whatever way feels good to you, and how I express the divine is one way, and whatever feels good to me. It's also, decisions that you choose to make. Your life experiences are completely different than mine. And so what I choose to do with my life is going to look completely different than yours. And so when you have unity consciousness, and when you respect yourself, and when you learn how to live in your fullest expression, you're creating this ripple effect because you're making space for everyone else around you to do the same. And now, you might not agree with the people around you, but you're going to respect them. And when you have respect, you have love.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell the evangelicals for a while on my show, but I won't go down that rabbit hole just at this particular moment in time. But, but, but yeah, love, self-love is absolutely, central to everything. And, having served in the military, Sandy, let me tell you, I understand that like the catastrophe on that just the fallout when you have a bunch of people who are not able to be themselves, because from the day you enter into the military, it's all about rewriting whoever it is you thought you were so that you can be whoever they want you to be. And then that's expected to be maintained. I only did 6 years because as I got older in the military, I went when I was 17. I don't know that I necessarily recommend that. By the time I was 22, I was like, this ain't gonna work. I'm just getting wilder and wilder, and they want me to be tamer and tamer. I got trouble. I got Article 15, which is not a good thing. That's like big trouble in the military. I almost got kicked out a few times. So I was like, let me go. but a lot of people don't go. And, everybody, so it's common knowledge that military veterans and people in the military, poor mental health prevails, a lot of suicide and stuff like that. And it's because of what you just said, that people are not free to be themselves. And it is not sustainable. And unfortunately, a lot of it does end in death. So and then I knew you were a good, sweet girl when I first met you. I know you just said that you don't prefer to cuss or anything like that, whereas this bitch here does. And the reason why I do is because and I don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix, The History of Swear Words, that Nicolas Cage.
No, no.
I think it's still on there. Nicolas Cage is only like 6 episodes. It was kind of like a mini docuseries thing. And they talk about all the most popular swear words and everything like that. And they go through the history and everything like that. And Nicolas Cage is the narrator of it. Like, he physically hosts it. And it is so fucking cool. And so that I respect your open-mindedness, because I agree too. Like, I have people on my show all the time that I don't necessarily agree with, like I believe, for instance, like in Jesus Christ and the Trinity, but I'd have someone on here who worships the devil if I feel like it could be like good for the audience to get the contrasting point of views. I don't care. I mean, hell, the person who worships the devil is probably less likely to come for me, for being LGBT than like, a conservative Christian person. So they're probably like a better friend to me. So, but I like to use swear words because as I learned in this fabulous documentary, it helps you to relieve stress and things like that. It's something that works for me, doesn't work for everybody. But also, since I am so pro Jesus, I would like to divide a line in between myself and whatever the typical Christian is supposed to be. You can still cuss and have a perfectly fine relationship with God. And I think it makes me look more reachable, more human, and more down to earth, and stuff like that. And sometimes a bitch just needs to be cussed the fuck out, depending on what the fuck they done done that day. Be like, the bitch had it coming, and the bitch had it coming. And so
I love that.
I see, if I was hanging out with you and somebody made you and they agreed you didn't want to cuss them out, you could just tap me on the shoulder and be like, D, I need you to handle it. And I'll be like, she can't say it, but God damn it, I will.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think I feel like that's what intimidates people about me, though, when they get into any type of a confrontation with me, is that I'm so calm that it like intimidates them, because that's not what they're used to getting. They're used to getting something that's completely the opposite. But I love what you're saying about cursing. And this is not to say that I never curse. I mean, I'm human and I have my moments too.
Oh,
And I have I'm not against it at all. And I just try not to as much, but I definitely have my moments, and in those moments you can feel that release. And so again, it comes down to how energy is expressed through you, right? So like, if it feels good for you to say fuck, because it's just like, whoo, like it's like a breath of exhalation and fresh air, then that's what serves you. And that's why so much of what I teach is about what feels right to you, what is your core value, and whatever it is that you need, again, because your upbringing was different, do it. I say self-care is being self-aware. So I attract all different types of people and students, and I love that level of diversity, because we learn so much through contrast and polarization.
you had me at polarization. I love fucking shit up. I really, really do. Because as we're going to talk about later, you said chaos, basically creates creativity, and good things come from the bad, as you have done yourself, oh my God, when you were talking about your story earlier about the cramped living space that you had, that so reflected mine. And I don't know that that's not something I hear often, but we had, like, basically we call it the front room, the back room. It was 5 of us, 1 bathroom and 1 little bitty kitchen. There was no dining table. It was maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet by 5 or 6 feet. And that's
With ours, yeah.
that's where the box with the fire in it that we cooked food on was and stuff.
Yeah.
My
Oh my gosh.
my brother and I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna switch gears to your blog. My brother and I slept on bunk beds that were adjacent and touched my parents' bed, and we always shared the room with them. And then my other sibling slept in like the front room on the couch. That was their bedroom. So
Yeah, that was my bedroom at one point too, because I didn't want to share with my sister. And so when I just wanted a little space, I would just go and sleep in the living room. And that was my bedroom.
hmm
Yeah.
and yet here we are, people. So even if you
Yeah.
come through poverty, you can still be all right.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I think you have a really kick-ass blog on your website. And I love blogging. And I love blogging. I love reading blogs because it's like an expose into your mind and then what you think, and everything like that. And so everybody do go check out her blog. It's just at her website, which will be in the show notes. And one that stood out to me, you said, a new way to view time. And you touched on this earlier, talking about how people run, like we have trauma that happens in life, and then we're still running from it. It hasn't really processed. You say time is a thief. Well, you say it's a common thing that people have heard. And so there seems to be a correlation in between us really trying to get away from past trauma, but it ends up getting us moving super, super fast and it eats up our time. So I want you to talk about that and then tell us how we can, as you say, basically like slow down time.
Yeah. 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 And that I'm gonna read the quote from that blog that you read in A New Way to View Time. It's where time is of the essence. If you desire more of it, let time take time. And the way that I thought to write that blog was because I hear so many people say things, no matter how old they are, too. I hear people, and I have students who are in their 50s and their 60s, and they say that they don't feel like they have enough time to do the things that they want to be doing. They feel like they're running out of time because they're getting older. And then I talked to a young 20 something year old that just graduated from college. She feels the same exact way. So it doesn't matter how old you are. There's this interesting paradigm in our society where we think that we don't have enough time. And the common saying is that time is a thief. It never gets caught. And
Right.
and so I believe that that is something that we've been conditioned to believe by our society. And when we feel like we don't have enough time, what do? We rush. We rush to get to some place, somewhere, something. And look at the way that we live. We wake up by an alarm clock. That alarm clock tells us where we need to be and what we need to do versus listening to our own bodies and asking your body, well, what time do you actually want to wake up? Even when we go to school, we're rushing to get to school before the bell rings. Or when you're going to work, you're rushing to, get to a certain deadline. And then before we know it, we actually validate that time is a thief because we look back in our lives and we're like, wait a second, where did all this time go? And what I found when I started practicing meditation and I started to diligently tune into my own body and my own mind and what it was trying to teach me. I put away the alarm clock. So I stopped using alarm clocks. I started to experiment with, okay, let me just not even put an alarm clock on. Let me just tell my body, hey, wake up at this time before I go to bed and let's see what it actually does. Let me just show my body, demonstrate to my body that I trust it. So I did that. And, I was waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning that time. And I woke up at like 4:52, 8 minutes before the alarm clock rang. And I was like, this is really interesting. So I started to experiment with more things. I started telling my body different things. And I noticed that slowly, I started to shed the 60 pounds that I put on my body after I had competed in a bodybuilding competition. And so what meditation, what it really helps me to do was it really helps me to expand the moment that I had instead of me thinking about, something that was happening in the past and trying to run away from that, or projecting something that was happening in the future and trying to run towards that. I learned how to be so much more present that the time that I was in had stretched and expanded. And that moment I was able to actually marvel in. And my life just felt so much more enriched because of it. And every experience that I have feels more enriching. Every interaction that I have with people, it feels more enriching. And so, on my blog, the new way that I was suggesting to view time is that time is just an illusion. Time is a function so that we learn how to communicate in our society, but it doesn't define how we live our lives. And if we can just stop measuring our life by what we're achieving in a week or a day and spend more time being present and paying attention to what's unfolding in front of you, learning how to sink into your body and asking your body, what do you want? What do you feel right now? How does this feel to you right now? When someone says this to you, how does it feel in your body? What is it like to actually tune into your breath and breathe a little bit more deeper? When you shift all of that, your whole perspective on time completely shifts. And that's what my students who go to my retreat, they tell me, they're like, I don't know if I've been gone for 100 years or if I've been gone for like, 5 days, because their relationship with time has completely changed. They feel like they have so much time back that they're more energized to do the goals that they actually have instead of feeling defeated that they're running out.
It's true what you're saying about like time and relative to like your awareness of yourself. I was at at a binaural beats music event at a Unity church, and a Unity church is a very like metaphysical sort of church. They believe in like the Trinity, but you'll hear like them say like, refer to God as her, and then they'll tie like metaphysics in and teachings from any religion, as long as it makes sense. Yet they're pretty much centered on Jesus, but they're not like Christian by any means like that. They're much nicer. And but it's anyway, they were hosting way not but much nicer than the fake Christians, not the real ones. And so they were hosting like a binaural thing, and the people had like all these crazy long like horns and things like that, and it was like a meditation thing. And girl, we thought, me and my friends echoed the same thing. We thought maybe we had been in there for 20 minutes, and we like kind of like were in like some sort of state other than fully conscious, but I wouldn't say we were asleep. We were in something else, and it had been like 2 hours. And we thought only like maybe 15, 20 minutes had passed, And so I agree with what you're saying. Like, it's something about like, like how you write in your blog, like slowing down, being present, controlling your breathing, it makes you have, you know, like, like more time within time, and things like that. But for people to slow down and be present in the moment, is is a, is a, is a challenge, and stuff like that. So you actually wrote in there in your site through, as I was reading through, about like a 1 minute meditation.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to ask you to explain it, because I think that is for people who may be like looking at it like, gosh, I have so much going on. How on earth could I possibly slow down? You know, this is beyond me. I think most of us could probably find 60 seconds. And I think that could be a good springboard, to help people feel like a lot of what we're talking about is actually very much in grasp. So how could one, do a 1 minute meditation?
Yeah. Well, let's do it together right now. So it's very, very simple. This is the thing that, people will just overcomplicate. And then when you overcomplicate something, you're not going to do it. And so it's really about teaching your mind. This is simple. This is easy. This is a no brainer. So I teach meditation in a 3-step process. So first thing you do is you sit in a comfortable meditation posture. So if you're sitting right now, you sit at the edge of your chair with your feet shoulder width apart, planted firmly on the ground, or you can also sit cross-legged as well. Depends on whatever you're more comfortable with. And then you establish the finger lock. So you're just taking your thumb, your index finger, touching it, and then letting it rest on your thighs. And then what we do is we just take a moment to be present with the body. So we scan the body. This is our way of telling the body, I acknowledge you. I acknowledge all that you do for me. And we look at the body, observe the body from the feet, and we observe it all the way up, just as if you're scanning something with your own eyes. From your feet, past your knees, past your diaphragm area, your heart, your throat, all the way up. And as we observe it going back down, you're just going to relax the muscles around your eyes, relax the muscles around your jaw, allow your shoulders to fall back a little bit, and allow your entire body to be in a relaxed mode. Because when you relax, is when you receive the most. And now I want you to bring your awareness, bring your attention to your area right underneath your nose, in between your lips. And notice how your breath is going in and out in that area. Feel it as you inhale and then as you exhale. And now for the next 30 seconds, focus on the inhalation and exhalation underneath your nose. Taking in deep inhalations and then exhale, releasing. Once again, inhale and exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. And then whenever you're ready, open your eyes.
Wow, you have a perfect voice for this. And I've been in a lot of meditations, but I've never heard anybody focus attention to the part of your body where your breath coming out of your nose actually hits. I think that it's so clever. And I really, really commend you for coming up with that. And thank you for sharing that 1 minute meditation. I feel relaxed already. And speaking of that soothing voice of yours, like when I was listening to your podcast, the Prosperous Podcast, sound on it from like a moment you start talking is like a yogi, like you've been like a meditation guru for like many lifetimes, whatever it is that that you've done to bring you to this point. I really take my hat off to you. And so then I mean many lifetimes, just like jokingly, I'm not actually like a reincarnation buff or anything like that. So
Oh, that's true. I've met myself in a past life. Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, oh, I could, I'm like, can't wait, I'm gonna stay on focus. But like, yeah, I wonder about that sometimes. Like when I see people who like look like me and I notice like different things like that. And then I don't know, I heard somebody say one time that they believe that maybe people are reincarnated enough times, maybe because God is trying to give them a chance to get it right. And then who knows, maybe they might, maybe not so much as like in Moana where you're going to be reincarnated as a stingray or whatever her grandmother wanted to come back and it's, maybe reincarnation as a person versus like a dragonfly, I don't know. I'm not going to knock any school of thought because, I haven't, been, dead enough to experience what actually is on the other side. I did have like an experience, when I woke up when I was younger, like dying, and it's like I was losing my breath. I think it was like a heart rhythm thing. And then I did think that I was, and then it's like I was looking down a tunnel and I saw one person who I knew was dead already. But, as this was happening, it's like I was trying to catch my breath and it was going away from me no matter what I tried. I was like a teenager in high school or in middle school. And but I happened, I woke up the next day, but there are stories about kids who like just randomly die in their sleep and stuff like that. But anyway, so on your podcast, which is a huge meditative journey, as I would describe it, and it's super helpful and it's right on brand with the way that you have everything else going. I think it's a great outreach that you have so much stuff going on, the podcast, the retreat, the blog in and of itself, and a great website that's very interactive and people can go there and really understand who you are, and things like that. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful website. And one of your most recent podcasts that stood out to me was one called Chaos and the Creativity. And that one was important to me because in it, you're talking about the COVID pandemic times that we live in and how trouble has become just kind of like the norm. Is kind of what we do. And I don't think that this can be overstated. And so I wanted to spend some time talking about what you mean when you say chaos into creativity.
Yeah, I can say that I think for everybody, we've all behind the scenes, behind the screens of social media, podcasting, and it doesn't matter what role you play in the world or how perfect your life looks out there. Everybody the past couple of years has gone through some form of chaos. And if you tune into the outside world, that's really all that you see. There's constant things on the media, on the news that inject fear into our minds that make us run all over the place like scattered ants. And it also makes us feel more divided and separated now more than ever. And what I was saying is that we think that when we're experiencing chaos in our lives, that it's a bad thing, right? But what I'm saying is that no, all this chaos that you see in the outside world right now and all the chaos that you're feeling inside your body, your mind is an opportunity to restructure not just what is going on within you, but what's going on within society and change what things look like moving forward for future generations. Chaos creates order and chaos creates clarity, and chaos can be transmuted into creativity. I can't imagine what life would look like for me if I just had to be born and I would just ride this smooth like road, this smooth wave all the way to the end of the finish line until I die. I cannot imagine what life would look like in that way. And I don't want it to look that way. I ask for the unknown. I ask to be guided. I ask to surrender. I ask for things to happen in my life so that I can learn, so that I can heed the lessons and apply them and evolve my mind and evolve my consciousness into higher states so that I could be an instrument of love and peace and joy in the world. And so if you feel like my life is so chaotic, I feel like once I take care of one thing, something else happens, or there's so much drama that's going on in my life right now, use it as an opportunity to see your life almost as a movie. And that's what I like to think of things like my life is like a movie and I'm watching it on a screen. And I can change the relationship that I'm having with my life right now if I pay attention to the movie that I'm playing inside of my head. Because at the end of the day, what you see in your outer world is simply a reflection of what's going on in your own mind. So if I can see that there's chaos in my outer world, there's probably a lot of chaos in my inner world that's desiring to be turned into creativity. So remember what we said earlier is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So I can take this chaos that's going on in my mind right now, where my thoughts are all over the place.
Mhm.
It's almost like I'm in traffic and there is nobody there to direct the traffic to go. And so there's a traffic jam. So I can take this chaos right now and I can really transform it into a beautiful picture. So what am I going to do with all this energy? Chaos is simply energy that's waiting to be transformed. So if you got chaos going on, how can you take it and turn it into something? So for example, podcasts are amazing. And I bet you feel this way too, Devanin, where sometimes it's like, okay, I feel like I've got a lot of heat right now and I got some things to say and I'm going to turn on that mic and I'm going to say what I got to say. Right. And that's your channel. That's your way of expressing, or maybe you just want to pick up the phone and just start person, like do whatever makes you feel good. For some people, it's singing. For some people, it's playing sports. For some people, it's going for a walk outside. It just gets to be simple. And I think that we need to learn how to do that, is actually transform the chaos that we're experiencing. And that way you'll realize that what you created is a piece of art with your life. And now you're watching a movie that you were the director in, not anybody else.
Right. And so this reminds me of well, let me clarify. Like, okay, so y'all saying he's not saying like, fall in love with chaos or anything like that, or to get like used to it. But she's saying, since it's there and it's around us so much, what good can we get to come out of it? You know,
Yes.
it's about a shifting perspective. Not why has this happened to me, but maybe why has this happened for me? Whatever the would be tragic or what tragic thing is. a probably totally tragic thing is that you have had in your life. Like with HIV, when I first got it, I was like, oh my God, this is so terrible. I'm going to die. And I'm like, you know what? This is pretty awesome because you know what? It forced me to be more healthy than what I was, diet, exercise, vitamins and stuff like that I wasn't taking, at least not consistently. And there were government programs in place to help me and stuff like that were, very, relatively easy to get for people with HIV, or not, just for us. And so right now I view it as a blessing because it helps me to understand my mortality and things like that. And it helps me to want to enjoy life more in the present, because the whole grandeur illusion I'm going to live forever and I'm invincible, flew out the window. So I now view HIV as a total blessing. Now, I'm not saying, so, go run out and get it, anybody. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, since it's here, you know, I think I did my best to turn that chaos into something that was more creative. And so the last thing we're going to, oh, I love you and I love everything that you're talking about. And like you said, with the podcast, basically using them to get out, the fire and the heat that comes up inside of you. Yeah, they're damn good for that. But so are blogs too. And
Yeah.
I really love, reading Bitches for Filth on a good blog.
Mhm.
And the work that we do, the blog that you have, the podcast that you made, the thing I love the most about them is that they will outlive us. And
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
if this earth, remains and stuff like that, then what we went through now, Cindy, can help people however many more years the earth has left, because we were unselfish and we're willing to be transparent.
Oh, let me tell you, Devan, and that just gave me full body chills. Full body chills. I think for me, when it comes down to why I do what I do, I want to leave an imprint for future generations. I want them to have some type of a roadmap that I didn't have.
Mhm.
And that's going to guide them in the direction of learning how to listen to themselves and learning how to trust themselves, which are things that we are not taught in school. And so that when I think about, why I wake up and why I do these things every day, why I go through much on my own, like, why do I keep wanting to face the things that, certain traumas or whatever that is, because I know that I'm transforming that energy and planting a seed for future generations. And this is also why in that podcast episode, Chaos into Clarity, or Chaos into Creativity, I talked about when you feel like you have a lot of chaos going on in your life, you get to realize that you are the eye in the center of the storm. All the storm is happening around you, but you are the eye in the center. And if you can just learn to surrender and lean on God, lean on the greater force, lean on Jesus, whoever that means to you, then you're just going to feel like I am living life and being the instrument of a force that is so much greater than myself. And that's why I sang that song. That song, like when I was recording it, it just came up in my mind. I'm like, oh, like I'm just gonna sing it because it's coming up. And it's such a great song. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, it's a Lean on Me by Bill Withers, who actually just passed away, I think a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago. And I think it's a popular song that we all know. And the lyrics even start off by saying, sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. But if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. I think about God in those moments, like that's what's being said to us, and we just have to learn to listen.
Okay, well, you brought me to the next and final point. It was time for us to sing the song anyway. So,
Oh, look at that.
you just give us the lyrics. We gotta at least give them a verse, and then after we sing this, I'll go ahead and let you have the last word, and then you can tell people whatever your parting, or not parting, but I'll see you soon. The knowledge or wisdom will be, and we'll be putting all of your contact information and everything in the show notes and stuff like that. But I like for my guests to have the last word, because we're here to hear you. Although I do blab on and on and on and on and on. So sometimes in our lives, we all have
We all have pain.
we all
We
have
all have soul.
sorrow, but if we are one, We
know that
there's
there's
always tomorrow. You can take the chorus because I want to just hear you now.
that was fun. That was my first time ever singing on another podcast with the host and singing in general. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
Girl, you let the Lord use you, hallelujah, on a Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, we in it.
All right, your last words to the audience. Give us your
Mm,
wisdom.
My last word as we impart on this journey for now is I feel like the one most powerful instrument that we have each been given, no matter what religious background you have, no matter what experience, is not, chemicals, gases, weapons, war, fear, vaccinations, sciences, education, money. Those are not the most powerful instruments that we've been given. The most powerful instrument that we've ever been given is our mind. And with your mind, you can create anything that you desire and you can use it to feel the highest and greatest good and what that looks like for you. So I pray that you continue to nourish your mind and feed your mind with things that help you to create a garden that feel like peace and joy and happiness to you and love. And that with this, you use your mind to be an instrument of love for a greater force. So we all have brilliant minds, and there's so much that we can do with it. And as my cousin who passed away from leukemia says, life is like a blank canvas. Do with it whatever you want.
Oh, I'm so sorry that she passed away, but what a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful quote from her.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Sandy, for your wisdom today. You are a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Thank you all so much for taking time to listen to the Sex, Drugs, and Jesus podcast. It really means everything to me. Look, if you love the show, you can find more information and resources at sexdrugsandjesus.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. Feel free to reach out to me directly at devanin@sexdrugsandjesus.com and on Twitter and Facebook as well. My name is Devanin, and it's been wonderful being your host today. And just remember that everything is going to be all right.